Forget color. These films don't need it. They use black and white like a weapon to unsettle, confuse, and cut deeper. These stories feel like nightmares caught on film, and they'll stay with you long after the credits roll. The Night of the Hunter is one of the most unusual and haunting films of its time. Robert Mitchum plays a corrupt ex-preacher who marries a widow just to steal money hidden by her late husband, and then turns on her children when they won't tell him where it is. The story is based on a novel by Davis Grubb, inspired by real events, the 1932 case of Harry Powers, a serial killer who used Lonely Hearts ads to find his victims. Directed by actor Charles Laughton, this was his only film, but it left a massive impact. Its eerie black and white style, dreamlike scenes, and disturbing tones set it apart from typical Hollywood movies of the 50s. Filmmakers like David Lynch and Martin Scorsese have praised it as a major influence. In The Naked Kiss, Samuel Fuller tells the story of a woman who walks away from her past as a prostitute and tries to start over in a quiet town. But what seems like a new beginning quickly unravels. Behind the town's clean image is a world of lies, abuse, and cruelty. The film deals with topics that were rarely shown on screen in the 1960s: prostitution, harassment, child abuse, and moral decay, without turning away or offering easy answers. Fuller's black and white style gives the story a harsh, stripped-down look. Nothing feels polished or safe. His characters are blunt, the emotions raw, and the world they live in feels brutally real. There's no clear line between good and evil, only people trying to survive in a place that hides its worst behind a smile. This black and white experimental horror film offers a surreal, wordless retelling of the Book of Genesis. It presents strange, godlike figures caught in violent, abstract rituals that explore themes of creation, suffering, and rebirth. There are no clear characters or dialogue, just a series of unsettling images that feel more like a nightmare than a story. Shot on reversal film, Begotten uses high contrast and grainy texture to obscure details, making the visuals even more disturbing. It's a bold and unconventional film that pushes the boundaries of horror and challenges the viewer at every step. In Eyes Without a Face, a brilliant surgeon is secretly kidnapping young women to remove their faces. His goal is to restore the beauty of his daughter, whose face was horribly disfigured in a car crash. She lives hidden behind a smooth white mask, drifting silently through her home like a ghost. The film caused outrage when it was first released, not just for the graphic surgery scenes, but for its cold, quiet atmosphere. The black and white cinematography gives everything a clinical, dreamlike quality. It's not loud or violent, but deeply unsettling. Beneath the surface, it explores fear of the body, of identity, and of what happens when someone tries to force beauty onto another at any cost. Over time, it became a landmark in horror history, precise, eerie, and impossible to forget. This is a film by Ingmar Bergman, but it's unlike most of his dramas. It blends psychological tension with supernatural elements, following an artist who slowly loses touch with reality while isolated on a remote island with his wife. As night falls, he begins to see familiar faces twisted into demonic shapes, unsure of whether they are real or imagined. His descent into madness unfolds during the so-called Hour of the Wolf, a time just before dawn when, according to superstition, most births and deaths occur. The fear here isn't in violence or blood, but in the blurred line between reality and fantasy, for both the characters and the audience. Hour of the Wolf barely fits the horror label, but what it shows, isolation, madness, and fear that creeps in slowly, is more disturbing than most films in the genre. Pi is a psychological thriller about a man who's trying to find patterns in the chaos of the universe. He's convinced that math can explain everything, but the deeper he goes, the more his mind starts to break down. The film dives into themes like death, faith, and the fear of losing control. This was Darren Aronofsky's first movie, and even with almost no budget, it looks amazing. Shot in gritty black and white, with tight, uncomfortable angles and fast, jarring edits, Pi pulls you into a spiral of obsession, paranoia, and pure anxiety. This peculiar movie, directed by Herk Harvey, was an independent horror production. It didn't gain any attention when it first came out, but over time developed a strong cult following and has been cited as a major influence by several contemporary filmmakers. Despite its low budget and unknown cast, the film creates a tense and dark atmosphere. We follow a woman who, after surviving a car accident, begins to see a strange figure known as the Man. He appears to her repeatedly, and she feels a mysterious pull toward a nearby abandoned carnival. What follows are a series of eerie, unsettling scenes as the woman slowly loses her grip on reality. The film ends with a haunting and ambiguous twist that leaves the viewer questioning everything. Once again, an independent horror film manages to push creative limits, using its black and white visuals to full effect.